Dogman protects the poor. Dear Scary Stories NYC, look man, I am not going to tell you where this is happening exactly, but I'm going to tell you a Dogman story that's happening right now, even as we speak. This has been happening for a while, and it is ongoing. Have you heard that term habituation? It means a wild animal or a cryptid has decided for whatever reason to take up residence on land that humans live on, or else directly nearby. Usually this involves the humans providing for the animals in some way, at least partially, leaving food out and whatnot. Well, this story is almost the opposite of that. It's about a bunch of us humans who all want to live in a certain building in our neighborhood. And the reason for this is that the area is looked out for by a really huge and ultra serious looking Dogman. This guy looked like he walked out of a Marvel superhero movie, an early one when they were still good. He's like a furry version of the Hulk, and as dangerous as he appears to be, I know a mother and daughter who live downstairs from me, and they give him food every day. They go right up to him, or at least they did this one time, which I saw with my own two eyes. You see, this Dogman treats us like we're either his family, or maybe his pets or property. He scared off the owner of this building, and so none of us have been paying rent for over a year. I've been keeping mine in a savings account until I find out who the current owner even is, but I know some families have been spending their rent money on necessities, like food and school books. Since the building was privately owned by just one man, we may have fallen into some kind of legal loophole. If a landlord is absent in a building, usually the tenants try to find him. Our landlord was terrible. He never did any repairs around here, and he was an awful tyrant, threatening old and poor people with eviction if they were even a little late with their payments. Believe me, none of us miss him. We created a pool of money to make repairs with, sharing the expenses between ourselves, depending on who can afford what. As a result, the building is currently in better shape than it's ever been since I've been here. And that's only because we took the place over by ourselves. One of the tenants who has a lawyer for a cousin says that if we can last 5 more years, or 5.5 more, then we might actually have a legal claim of ownership on the building. I mean, it was more complicated than that. I don't remember the details. If I'm still living here by that point, with the Dogman, but without the landlord, well, I'll look up the info then. As you must understand by now, this is a very strange situation. I want to tell you some of the key events that took place which led things in this direction, so that people in your audience can understand that not all Dogmen are insane butchering monsters. I will not deny that some Dogmen can be as psycho and dangerous as one of those cannibal Bigfoot that they tell stories about in the middle of the country. But there are also Dogmen who are noble and good, heroic even. I see this Dogman as a hero, that's for sure. Even the way he holds himself seems regal, or from a line of nobility. The Dogman had been a subject among the tenants for some time before I witnessed it myself, and the first time for me was just that. I witnessed a glimpse of him as he darted between 2 buildings. The corner of my eyes saw an upright walking canine almost as tall as the 2-story buildings that he was passing behind. My brain rejected this information as impossible, and I turned my head to look directly over there. I waited for the thing I had seen to emerge from the other side of that building, but it did not happen. I ran into one of the other tenants who had told me about the Dogman earlier, and I asked him to please give me his description of the animal he'd seen again, including every detail he could remember. He laughed at me for asking this because I had doubted his story when he first told me. He asked me if I'd seen it too, and I told the truth. I wasn't really sure yet. That was why I wanted him to tell me about his experience again. This guy, let's call him G, lives down on the 1st floor. Actually, it's technically the 2nd floor of the building, as the main floor is called the lobby for whatever reason. He has to take the elevator up 1 floor or walk up 1 flight of steps. Then he is on the 1st floor where his apartment is. So his first sighting of the Dogman and at that time his only sighting, happened as he got up one morning. He had been dreaming that there was a Tyrannosaurus Rex wandering around our neighborhood, and when he opened his eyes, at first, he thought he saw just that outside his bedroom window. Sitting bolt upright in bed, G focused his eyes out the window and saw that this Tyrannosaur seemed to be covered in fur. Blinking his eyes again, he realized he was looking at a really large dog head in profile, but outside his bedroom window on the second floor. Apparently his movement inside had caught the dog's interest, and the creature turned to look at G. When he looked at him directly like that from the front, G said he saw shoulders on the big canine. Shoulders like a man would have. He couldn't see down further than the tops of those shoulders, but he was looking at a window on a floor that was 9 or 10 feet above ground level out back. That would mean that unless the dog was standing on top of something, he had to have been at least 12, and more likely 13 to 15 feet high. That part broke my brain, trying to visualize it, because I was in my mind seeing a dog sitting or standing the way a dog does, on 4 legs. Eventually, G saw how I was confused, and he explained. This dog had to have been standing up on his 2 hind legs. There was no other way it could have been. This was an upright canine of immense size, larger than most bears. After hearing that, I told G what I saw and where I saw it. He agreed that would have been about the correct height, so I either saw the same beast he saw, or I saw another one just as large. During the pandemic, the dog made his presence far more known, whereas my first experience of the beast was a sighting out of the corner of my eye. My second experience was more like seeing a celebrity. I was bringing my garbage out to the cans behind the building when I saw that girl I mentioned earlier with 3 other girls her age. They were all excited and making happy squealy sounds, so I walked a few steps further out around the corner to see what was going on. The girls were taking turns tossing bits of some kind of snack food in the air, and this ginormous, incredible Hulk in dog form was catching the food in his mouth. It was like witnessing Superman performing tricks like a trained seal. I was so stunned I literally found myself gasping for air. I think I had stopped remembering how to breathe for a moment. That was how shocking it felt, to turn that corner and see a 14-foot or taller giant cryptid dogman playing games with those kids. I wanted to scream monster and run for the hills, but those girls were laughing and having the time of their lives. They had no fear of this beast, and in return for their adoring attention, he put on his little food-catching show for them. I was in such a stunned state that I stood leaning against a wall, focusing on breathing in and out, waiting for my legs to start feeling like they were solid again and not made of jello. I had all the time in the world to just watch this creature and to watch the kids in their gleeful reactions. If it were a 4-legged animal, I wouldn't have had a problem with this scene. But because it was clearly a dogman, a legendary Midwestern cryptid, I felt like those kids were in terrible danger, and that I was going to see something horrible happen in front of me if I didn't remember how to speak and walk in time to save them. Suddenly the mother of one girl came over and put her arm on my shoulder, leaning on me and forcing me to wake from my stunned daydream. The mother was talking for a while before I even realized it. She was smiling and saying that the building was so much nicer since the big dog had come around. Had it? I asked. In what ways? Look around, she said, gesturing in 360 degrees. Do you see any rats anymore? Do you see any rats anymore? She was right, I didn't, and that place had been infested. They were in the sewers and in the sub-basement, and no doubt they had tunneled through the entire neighborhood underground. Rats had been a fact of life in this place. It's not the rich part of town, to be polite. Still, it wasn't dark yet, and I pointed out that the rats mostly come out at night. She responded that if they did, then Fido here would get them, like he's gotten all the others. Well, I thought she was being delusional, but it only took a couple or 3 months before I noticed that our rat problem had disappeared 24/7. By that point, most of the neighbors had adapted to the Dogman train. One family told me the Dogman attacked a man who was trying to break into their home, and after that they dubbed him Fearless Fido. I think that's kind of a kitschy name for such a magnificent creature. I think he should have some kind of a Latin name, something important sounding. Really, he should be known to the world. He should be famous. He should be on television. But he can't be, because then he'll probably get taken away from us. Once the rats were wiped out, we all contributed food to the Fearless Fido Food Fund to keep him interested in sticking around and protecting us. The first time I brought some food out to him, the Dogman and I almost got into a disagreement. You see, I brought him some leftovers that my grandmother had made me bring home. There was all this stuffing and mashed potatoes that I really don't like. And somehow I think the Dogman sensed that I was giving him food that I was going to throw out if he didn't take it. Now, I don't personally see anything wrong with doing that, but apparently this Dogman does. I took the food back, it got rejected, and then this 13 or 14-year-old boy started lecturing me that I shouldn't give anything to our Dogman to eat that I wouldn't want to eat myself. Like, this brat talked down to me, and the Dogman glared at me while he did it, too. I felt so guilty, I went out and bought him chicken strips from KFC, spending my own lunch money on him. I kept the biscuit for myself, though, because I was starving. There was this girl that I started dating who invited me to her home after a couple of weeks of us knowing each other. But then she started asking to see my place, and I really was afraid of bringing her around. I mean, her neighborhood isn't better than mine. I'm not ashamed to be where I am. But I just didn't know if she would be cool about the whole Dogman thing. And even if she wasn't terrified of him, would she be willing to keep quiet about him? You know, I don't like to have big secrets for this very reason. But the Dogman needs to remain a secret, obviously. Both for his safety, and so that we can continue to keep him around. You know, I once kept a big secret from my best friend. And when my old girlfriend broke up with me, she told my best friend every part of that secret. Needless to say, neither of them talked to me anymore. That was when I decided to live my life as publicly as I could. And then fate tossed Fearless Fido the Dogman into my backyard. Now for the second time in my life, having a secret and losing a girlfriend came together. The unholy combo, I call them. I realized that I just didn't trust that woman to be cool about the Dogman. And it was about more than just me this time. Losing the Dogman would mess things up for all the families living here. And so I chose these people and the Dogman over that girlfriend. Now, I'm not saying I would never date or anything like that, but I think my attitude about what I find valuable in women and everyone else in general has changed drastically since meeting the Dogman. Honestly, I used to mostly care about how pretty a girl was or how hot she looked when she shook her booty. But now I fantasize about a woman who would be honest and loyal and kind to our Dogman protector. I guess I'm done playing the field and would only be interested in a mature situation with a good-hearted person who gets along well with the man-eating land predator cryptid in my backyard. So in other words, I expect to stay single for a long, long while. For the most part, everyone in that building was feeling as though life might be getting better. But then came the day when the landlord showed up to harass an old woman late on her payments. He caught up with her out back, and he began to scold her so loudly we could all hear him. It was so insulting. I wanted to say something, but I wasn't sure I wasn't going to be late that month too, and I didn't want to risk drawing attention to myself. Well, our Dogman protector, he had no such reluctance to act. Looking out the window, I saw his shadow cover the landlord before I saw the beast himself walk into the scene. I'm not sure if the dogman knows English, but one way or another, he read that scene. He knew that the landlord was bothering his friend. Growling and baring his teeth, the dogman walked right up to the landlord, who moonwalked back, away from him. The old lady was like, "Hi Fido, I brought you a milk bone," and all friendly like that. But the landlord, he was like, "Lady, please call your pooch off." The landlord was really scared, you know. So like I said, he started backing away slowly. Then when he turned to run around the side of the building back to his car, the dogman took off after him. I heard the landlord squeal like a goat. Then his car door slammed, and he sped off. Someone who lives in the front of the building told me that he saw the dogman chasing the landlord's car down the road into the distance. Now, although we got a big laugh about it, that in no way seemed to me like it would be the last time that we saw our landlord. Nevertheless, we haven't seen him since. We haven't gotten any more mail from him, not even bills for our rent. He hasn't come around to visit or assess apartments for repairs. I mean, he's been persona non grata. One person told me they called his number and the answering service was off. The line wasn't disconnected, but it just rang and rang. I thought about trying the number myself, but really, I'm afraid the landlord might pick up. I do not want to talk to that guy. Some of our neighbors have some crazy ideas about what happened to the landlord, but I'm not one to waste time thinking about stuff like that. One person thinks the dogman got him somehow. One of the kids says that Fearless Fido put the landlord in doggy jail. I asked them, "Where's doggy jail?" And they told me it's somewhere that human beings don't even know about. The thing that I don't understand though, even if the landlord passed away or went missing, shouldn't there be someone else with an interest in the man's holdings and properties? Does he not have any partners or family at all? Maybe he doesn't. I don't really want to ask too many questions because things are nice the way we have them here right now. None of us want to rock the boat. We're hoping nobody ever notices our situation until one day we're the legal owners of the building, thanks to the dogman. I mean, sure, maybe that's an impossible dream, but just in case it could come true, I'm not going to publicly tell you where this is happening. And none of us are willing to release any of our video or photos of the creature to the public either. Once that gets seen, then our nice situation would be over. They'd probably take the dogman away from us. Then we'd all have to go back to spending a lot more money to have a much worse life. None of us want to lose the dogman, so we keep him our secret. He can come and go as he pleases between here and the local woodland. And each time he returns, he gets a hero's welcome from us, believe me. So I may not live in the best neighborhood, and there is a lot of crime out on the streets, but at least our rodent problem has been eradicated, and we all feel completely safe in our homes. We haven't paid rent in so long that I almost forget how much it's supposed to be. I have no idea what happened to the landlord, but it's been amazing to live here. If you want, I have plenty more interesting anecdotes that I've collected about the beast from my neighbors, and I could write more if there's any interest. Because, I think it's important that people know that the dogman isn't only a huge carnivore and scavenger that people fear throughout the Midwest down to Louisiana. I know from personal experience that at least in our case, Dogman protects the poor. Our executive producer is where it's at. She donated to us using Super Chat. She's a connoisseur of Dogman frights. Why, she's none other than Anna White. Please join us in thanking Anna White for donating a big 20 to us on St. Patrick's Day. I tell you, with the evil leprechauns out there severely limiting the views on our channel right now, I'm not sure we'd even be able to survive without kind donors and sponsors and benefactors like Anna White. I believe Anna got to see this episode yesterday because she's a top tier channel member, if I recall correctly. If you would also like to see secret episodes and see shows in advance of the public, then check out what our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman, has to say. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button. Or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.